and welcome to the Coach and Player Podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Dunn. Along with us tonight, we have Chris Franklin, who is one of our writers for the magazine, as well as Temple alum, former Temple football player, and what I just call the most interesting man in the world, Morkeith Brown. First of all, brothers, I want to thank you guys for getting on the podcast tonight.
No problem. Thanks for having us.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for coming. What I wanted to start off the conversation, guys, is, we're all Temple fans, and this has been an incredible season. I mean, everything from the Penn State victory to the victory last week with UMass. It just seems like we're clicking. I mean, even when it looks like, man, we should lose this game, we're finding ways to win. So what are your guys' thoughts so far this season? And Morkeith, I really want to hear from you too, as well, from a former player perspective.
Well, I mean, to me, like you said, it definitely is going a great season. Coach Rule's doing an amazing job with them guys. And, I always, believed in Coach Rule. He was my recruiter. He recruited me when I went to Temple, and he never sold his stuff short then. And why would he do it now, He feels the play, like he's a coach's player, He understands what players want, and they need, and you don't always give them what they want, but you need to, sometimes you need to listen. I feel like he does that, and with them doing that, it's making the players want to play harder for him, and the coaches is coaching hard for the players, and it's just all coming together.
Absolutely. So we got a game this weekend with Charlotte. Now, Charlotte, I think, has only been Division I for a couple of years. They're still getting their feeding together in Conference USA. Chris, in a perfect world, this should be a game we should, in my opinion, blow them out. But why do I feel like this is a trap game for us? Chris, what do you think about that?
You're right. Everything on paper shows that Temple has the edge on Charlotte when it comes to offense, when it comes to defense, and even special teams. And that's what's going to be the interesting thing to see how Coach Rule and the rest of the coaching staff are able to go ahead and rail the guys in this week. When you look at Charlotte, their quarterbacks combined, they use two quarterbacks, Matt Johnson and Lee McNeil. Combined, they've thrown for 11 interceptions themselves as opposed to throwing 3 touchdowns. So this Temple defense can definitely feast on the turnover aspect. The offense should go ahead, and the offense should be able to go ahead and move the ball via the running game. I think it's going to be interesting to see how they use Jihad if they start to rest the guys. And special teams, Austin Jones is on a roll, so I expect to see him to do well. The main thing to watch is Temple going to beat themselves as opposed to Charlotte beating Temple.
Now, Morkeith, in these kind of games where, in theory, we think that this should be a game we should run through these guys, and like we mentioned earlier, I mean, we think this could be a trap game. How does a Coach Rule prepare the guys for these kind of games? How does he motivate them to say, look, guys, let's not sleep on these guys. These guys could come out there and look like UMass last week. Who would have thought UMass was going to come out there swinging wood like they was last week?
I mean, like you said, to me personally, there's no such thing as a trap game. Everybody's trying to play. Everybody's on the field. Everybody plays football. The difference is maybe a little size difference and depth of players and whatnot, and coaching staff, and talent. But at the end of the day, when you're putting your heart out on the line, everybody's practicing, 5 days out of the week just to play for that one game on Saturday. And they put in just as much work as the next person. So I don't believe in the whole trap game thing, but to overlook a team, that happens, which should not happen, which is why I feel like we struggled last week previous to UMass. They definitely are not on our level when it comes to talent. No disrespect to them because, once again, they're a football team and they are, talented. But I feel like that they were not on our level. And for us to be able to pull that off in the end, that just shows us that we're coming alive as far as, becoming that top tier, Temple football team that we want to be.
Absolutely.
Before it was always something holding us that kept, couldn't beat Penn State. We get close, but just can't beat them. We accomplished that.
Let me tell you.
Be the top 25 team. Now we just accomplished, having a win, going and then losing all the way into the fourth quarter, and doing whatever it took to come on top at the end of that game, blocking the field goal, and getting it and running it back for a touchdown, driving this ball down and finishing with a field goal. It takes a real good team and a well-coached, mature, team to understand, that the game's not over until it's over.
Absolutely.
And I applaud them boys as well as Coach Ruler and the whole coaching staff on that.
Absolutely, because I remember watching that game, and I know a lot of other folks, because the game was on ESPN online, and even after that game ended, we couldn't even get our seats. We were just so stunned that we came back and won that game. Because I felt like my heart was about to bust out my chest. I think it was universal, man. I think it was universal. We all were sitting there like, oh my God, did we just win this game? Because I remember these games. I remember the Penn State game when you guys played against Penn State in 2011. I was at the games when Blake Bortles threw the last second touchdown in the end zone. I was right in that end zone. So, and just coming from being a Temple alum and following Temple since I was a kid, I've seen us get to these points. And then, I like to analogize it. I'm a wrestling fan growing up, and we'll get to that later. But there was a wrestler back in the day when I was a kid, S.D. Jones.
Okay.
Because I don't know if you remember S.D. Jones. S.D. Jones was his brother that he will win. If it's a 10-minute match, he will win 9 minutes and 57 seconds, and then he'll trip and bump his head on the turnbuckle, and 1, 2, 3, he loses the match. So, and that's how I analogize Temple sometimes, over the years. So to see us go that way, man, it was incredible. It was an incredible game. So in terms of Chris, who are the players on Charlotte that, and you might have mentioned this earlier, is there anybody there that we should be concerned about? Like at UMass, that quarterback was just on fire until the very end. Is there anybody on Charlotte, those two quarterbacks that give us any that we should be worried about?
I don't think it's going to be the quarterback so much. I think if you look at it when it comes to running back. I think when you look at Khalif Phillips, I think he's a decent
Hold on, guys. You're in and out. Go ahead, say that again, Chris.
No problem. If Khalif Phillips was in a different
breaking up.
Hold on. Charlotte tries to just keep the time of possession game going. He's the guy to look for. So he's the one that makes it go. Both quarterbacks teams are not nothing special, or not to be rude or anything, but there's nothing special in there. And then on defense, Larry Onjaboli, he actually is pretty decent as well too. 18 tackles, 25 tackles total. He's a disruptive force on that defensive line. And that's Charlotte's strength is going to be is defense. So it's going to be interesting to see how the Temple offense go ahead and attack the defense. They were able to force a lot of turnovers. Now, for Atlantic last week, they turned the ball over 8 times. And I think it's which included 5 fumbles, which was an insane game. But they're going to have to protect the ball because they will go ahead and try to strip it out of their hands.
So now, with them being in Conference USA, I think last year might have been their first full season in Division I, and they went 5-6, right?
I think that's the first conference, yeah.
Yeah, so, I'm not too familiar with the recruiting down there in the Carolina area, but I'm familiar with VA, but I'm not familiar with being in that area, do you think Charlotte has a pipeline that they can pull from that can make them a more competitive team? Because they're coming up here in a couple of years. So what we're dealing with now, we might see a totally different team in a couple of years.
Area is it's rich in talent schools around. You have the NC States. They're going to compete with NC State, North Carolina. They're going to compete with South Carolina, which is not too far away as well, too. So the talent they're able to.
Hold on, Chris. Hey, Morkeith, can you do me a favor?
Yeah.
Can you put yourself on mute? Because I think I hear the wind. If you can. If not, don't worry about it. We'll work around it.
Yeah, I got it.
All right. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Oh, very good. When it comes to the area they're in, recruiting-wise, they have, if they have some success within the next couple of years, they can go ahead and pull some of those talents. Now, some guys that may have been 2-3-star guys that may be on the fence between, say, a Wake Forest versus Charlotte, if they go ahead and say, hey, you can come, almost like the Temple model, hey, you come here and make your mark on a newer program, they might be able to pull some guys with that recruiting pitch. Now, it could be a little tough a couple of years from now, but it's going to be important to see how they respond in this first year, and more importantly, next year when they go ahead and establish a program even more in Conference USA.
So you don't see a stigma? Because when I think of Charlotte, and I'm thinking of a campus, I'm not familiar with the campus, but I'm assuming it's in Charlotte proper. You don't see the challenge like we have here at Temple where you get the urban school stigma and nobody wants to live on campus or nobody wants to live in the city. You don't think that may be a challenge for them too in terms of recruiting?
For me, like, I may be naive when it comes to this, but for me, it's the allure. I get possibly more playing time, and even a legacy on a program. I think to me, I think that would be a little bit more important. Now, I know some guys are like, hey, I got to find where there's good off-campus stuff and stuff like that. But I think if you go about that route, trying to go ahead and get the people recruiting that wise, you may be able to pull some of those players away from the other programs.
So, and I had to put Morkeith on mute because Morkeith is in the sunny island of Hawaii, so all you hear is ocean waves and wind blowing through the microphone. No problem, brother. No problem at all. Let me ask you a question. So, what I wanted to do also as part of this podcast, Morkeith, is just talk about your background as well. I think, like I mentioned earlier, I think you're the most interesting man in the world because it seems like every year there's something more incredible happening. And just a brief synopsis for our listeners who's not familiar with Morkeith. You was a veteran. You went to Afghanistan, did a tour of Afghanistan, and you came back and went to Temple, started playing on the football team, was knocking folks out on the football team. Well, not literally, but you know what I mean. Just doing your thing on the team.
Yeah.
Went to camp with a couple of teams, and you also played in the Arena League with the Soul. One of the things that I followed you when you was in college, and one of the things that I felt the bond with you is because I was also a vet, and I came in. I was in the Army for 2 years, and then I came in and started Temple. So, when I hear about folks who went that route, it's an interesting perspective. You're not coming in there as an 18-year-old kid. You're not coming in there, fresh out of high school. You're coming from a war. How was that experience? How did that experience prepare you to play college football? I mean, it's totally one extreme to the other.
It prepared me as far as, being able to pay attention to detail, really, taking care of my responsibilities, basically, being a better man, being a bigger man, learning how to take orders and commands, sometimes you can't always be the leader, sometimes you got to follow, and being in the military teaches you how to do that.
Absolutely.
There's always going to be somebody out there that knows more than you, so don't be too big-headed to listen to the next person. It don't matter if they're younger than you. They might be in that profession longer than you, so they would know more than you. So I'll take bits and pieces of information from any and everybody that's willing to give it, and I try to apply that, into me becoming a better football player.
Absolutely. Now, what was your MOS when you was in? And for those who don't know, MOS is your occupation, your skill that you was trained in.
He's a mechanic and recovery, part of recovery team.
Nice. So, I brought up wrestling. I brought up S.D. Jones as a reference of the Temple program, and one of the things that I remember is that you actually had a developmental deal with the WWE.
Yeah.
What made you wanted to go that route?
Like I said, I like to take advantage of any opportunity I can get my hands on, you know, and it happened to come across my table, so I decided to try it out. Unfortunately, just like my issues when it came from me leaving, you know, the arena to go back to the NFL, I was injured at the time, which, you know, messed me up. I went down there. I didn't know that my rotator cuff was torn at the time because I was told that it wasn't, you know, so. But when I got down there and I was having the constant pains and I got my MRI and whatnot, it showed, you know, that there was a tear in my rotator cuff.
Right.
So with that, with wrestling, football, and rugby, everything's on hold right now. I actually had to get, you know, a second procedure because it just wasn't acting right. And right now I'm trying to heal up so I can, you know, get ready for my next adventure. But I was down there for about 3-4 months in Orlando, you know, where the development clinic is. And, you know, it's a good experience. It was fun, you know. It's not what people think, you know. Everybody says, you know, it's so fake and whatnot. And it's only fake to a certain point, you know. Like, you're still getting hit. You're still hitting those ropes. Slams. Like, the training is very intense and insane, you know. But just from me playing football, I felt like it prepared me for all those, you know, bumps and bruises and stuff. So I'm able to, you know, to drive through some of that.
Right. Absolutely. Absolutely. So in terms of what's next, I know you're recovering now, trying to get, you know, everything back in order. What are your plans? Do you plan to go back down there, or are you trying to get back and play in the league or arena ball, or what's next for you?
Right now, I haven't really made a 100% commitment to anything just as yet. Besides, I am trying to open up my own training facility in the Philadelphia area. Basically on Broad Street, actually, a real training facility, you know, not a gym, a Planet Fitness or nothing like that, no disrespect to them, but somewhere where you can become, you know, all these kids in high schools out here, where, you know, you get so much trouble, they don't got nowhere to go, you know. And just from me, I'm training out as a director right now, you know, as you know, getting more experience in the whole training field, and they have so many rules and age regulations that even if the kids could, you know, they can't go there anyway because they're not old enough. Or they can't afford it either, you know. So I'm trying to open up something along the lines and work with. I got a couple people, you know, helping me out, and a good friend of mine, Ken Wong, is helping me out as well, as far as, you know, trying to get a partnership with the word I'm looking for.
Cool. That's what's up. That's what's up. And your target would be anybody? Are you targeting just the high school kids who have potential to go to the next level?
I'm really targeting athletes.
Okay.
You know, at this age, you know, but why not get them in there early, you know?
Absolutely.
But also, you know, I'm going to rehab and trying to get healthy. And, you know, I still got a lot of opportunities out there as far as, you know, rugby, WWE. I can, you know, proceed to, you know, try and go back down there again. I can, you know, proceed to play AFL again or NFL again. You know, I have a lot of options.
Absolutely.
Sometimes it's a good thing, but, you know, it isn't necessarily a bad thing either.
And that's the great thing about, you know, your background. I mean, you've seen it, you've done it. And when you're coming from an environment where you're in Afghanistan and you're seeing war, and then you come back home, the sky's the limit. I mean, there's nothing that's going to challenge you that's going to make you say, I can't do it, because you've done it all. I mean, you know, from college football to the WWE and all of that. So, all the best, brother.
People don't believe it. You won't believe how many people do not believe me when I say stuff. But, you know, I mean, that's all them. But, you know, I just like, I mean, I can't. That's what I've done. Like, it's all,
hey,
you know,
man.
I don't like to settle for less. You know, I don't want to be a what-if guy. Why not just do it? You know, it's out there. It's available. You got the opportunity to take advantage of it.
Absolutely. Plus, you're Temple made, so you know that's how we get down.
Exactly.
So,
You know?
what I normally do, what I did on the first podcast, Chris, is I actually asked for predictions for Temple, because even though last podcast it was specifically about Virginia Tech and East Carolina, I made the folks talk about Temple because that's in my head. So, in terms of what do you see us doing this year, or what is your prediction? I mean, nobody expected us to be 3-0.
I did.
Well, so let me ask you both then. What do you see us doing this year?
Well, they've gotten.
Like you said, the limit.
Yep.
You know, I think we can go undefeated. Why not?
You know, it's funny because I heard Kirk Herbstreit say the same thing on ESPN before the UMass game, and I said, "Are we on Earth too? This is like bizarre to think that you could talk about us and running the table, which I honestly think we can. I think we could do it. You know, I know Notre Dame is tough, and I don't want to look past Notre Dame. I don't want to look past Charlotte, but why not? Why not us?
Why not us? It's time anyway.
Exactly. Chris, what do you think?
Coach Rule is the perfect guy to get the job done.
Absolutely.
They have the shot to do it. I'm a little worried about that stuff where they have UCF, ECU, and then Notre Dame. UCF was able to stick to South Carolina on Saturday.
Yeah.
ECU, as we know, took care of Virginia Tech. And then later on, you have Memphis down the line too. And UConn's not going to be a slouch. They're going to try to ruin the season. So it's a tough road. I think there's a good chance they're definitely going to win the AAC East. And depending on who comes out the West, if it's Navy, if it's Memphis again, you see them, I think they AAC. Something about Houston, I don't know what it is about them, but it seems like they have the Owls number. But I wouldn't put it past. I think the Owls will give them a game as well too. So I definitely see them in the AAC championship game. And who knows, maybe be going to. I heard Atlanta's nice in December, and I also heard that Miami's nice in December too.
Absolutely.
So
I could do Phoenix.
I ain't gonna lie.
I could do Phoenix too.
I'm there.
Hey, I think we're all gonna be there if we get that far.
Yeah, first flight. I'm on the first flight there. I'm trying to get on the flight 15 too.
I know that's right. So, outside of Temple, what do you see? All right, let's say Temple don't get to the national title. Heaven forbid that doesn't happen.
Right.
What do you see in the big picture in terms of winning it all?
You know what's crazy? It's kind of hard to see because a lot of these teams is not convincingly winning against teams that they should, or they getting blown out. Like Oregon just got blown out. Who ever think that would come?
Yeah.
You know, blown out. LSU, struggled against Syracuse. It was a great game. I won't take it from them. I won't take it from Syracuse. But for you to be ranked so high, it was a tough game. And then y'all got they probably, I think they got like Georgia and Bama. They got somebody. They got a couple teams left.
Yeah.
You got Bama. But I feel like they always need one together. They're definitely gonna be in the playoff. Ohio State, they need to get their offense, together, finish a game. They're not finishing games right now. They're a little too cocky, I think.
And I think they're starting to smell themselves. And they're right. They're right for the picking. I wouldn't be surprised if Penn State take them. Heaven forbid, but I wouldn't be surprised. You know what? I didn't see the polls yet.
Temple they're not in the top 25 as of yet. They only got 17, I believe, in the AP, and the coaches poll a little bit further back, less than that as well too. The Boise win really affected that. The Boise win as well too. Toledo's starting to get a lot more votes too.
Yeah.
That one.
Well, that means we got to really go down Charlotte and make a statement.
Yep.
Yeah, we do.
So I might go down that game. It depends on how I feel when I get back. I might be a little tired for the time change.
So let me ask. There's an elephant in the room, so I gotta ask, and I'll start with you, Chris. With Temple's success going on now, and Coach Rules being a young coach, I mean, he's younger than me. There's going to be folks talking about, well, maybe he could go to a bigger program. Can you imagine that happening? Could you imagine? Would he try to go to a bigger program after 1 year of success here?
No,
I really don't think so. I think he really believes he really is trying to build a program here. And I think when he had that press conference when the team came out and you hear him talking, I think he really wants to stay here and even for that, I know he's not acting like Bobby Petrino or anything like that.
Exactly, yeah.
For a couple of years and build a foundation and actually make this a long-standing program. Now, say 3-4 years from now, they continue to have the success they're having right now. I think a lot bigger programs are going to start knocking on the door, on the money around. I mean, like what they're doing with right now with Fuente in Memphis. But I think for the next couple of years, I think he's really going to be here.
Morkeith, what you think?
He loves the city, and build your own legacy. Like, he can really build himself a legacy here. Like, he's already done things that other coaches have yet to, accomplish as a head coach here at Temple University. Not taking anything from him. Like, and it was crazy. It was Coach Adazio was my favorite coach when I was not played there.
That was going to be my segue, so go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. Coach Adazio was my boy, man. I still talk to him, Like, he's one person that, seen me for who I was, really,
Yeah.
He didn't trying to make me into somebody that I wasn't, Coach Golden had his own ways about his things. Coach Adazio had his ways, and I like the way, Adazio ran his operation.
Now, when Daz was there, is that when you switched over from offense to defense, or were you going back and forth even?
Nah, I came in to play defense. I didn't get along with the defensive coordinator at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I ended up switching to offense. And then when he came, I was going to practice as an offense, as a tight end. And what's funny is I went down to Florida, for a visit, when I was coming out because I went to Lackawanna, and that's why I got put back on to all the colleges. I did a very good job at this combine, to go to the D1 colleges, and a lot of schools was there. And I was going to play defense down there. So when he came up here, it was like, he came up to me and said, "Why are you on offense?" I said, they moved me off. He said, "Why do you wait so much?" I said, "If they made me," he said, "Okay." He called Coach Briano over. So he needs to lose weight. He's back on defense. It went just like that. I was back on defense.
And the rest is history.
He came up to me like me, said, "Yeah, Golden told me about you and everything." I said, "I'm pretty sure he has." He said, "Well, I really don't care about what another man says. I give every man a chance to prove themselves to me. I don't want to go for nobody else's word." And I basically did the same thing I did when Golden was there. He just understood me a lot better. He never had no issues. Making captain. He really was. Honestly, he really was pushing for me to go to the Ravens, which was funny. He wanted me to go there so bad. like I said, I still talk to him, and he's a good dude, man. He's a really good, honest guy. He doesn't beat around no bush, none. He tell you like, I love that. And it's funny because it's kind of like the military. Everything is straightforward,
Mm-hmm.
There's no games being played. Like, he'll tell you to do something, you get it done. Everything, you're good. I really didn't feel like it was like that with Golden. He may have his reasons, because of that. But when it came to Adazio, if he said, "This is what I want," that's all he wants. We don't want you in the facility all day. Go enjoy a little bit of college. Have your fun. Do that. You got to get away. You got to get away from it sometimes.
Absolutely.
And even in certain situations, as in when it comes to being in the game, like for instance, Golden, like you said, he don't like to overlook anybody. So he'll tell you, every game can be a close game. Well, I understood that because it can be. But Adazio, that's not how he does it. He's like, "Listen, we're about to play them. They're not on their level. If we're not winning by 20 points by halftime, we might have practice on Sunday." You're like, "Man, we need to be winning by 20 plus points by halftime. No, I'm not trying to practice tomorrow."
I know, that's right.
We responded to that, very well. I feel like my last year, we had a very good season, besides some of the nonsense losses that we took. But yeah, that was my guy. And Coach Rule, That was my guy. When Coach Golden Lee, that was my guy. I went to Coach Rue for everything. Either him or Coach Foley. Two of the guys that are still on the staff right now.
Mm-hmm.
Coach Rue and Coach Foley, those were my guys, man. They did a lot for me. They looked out for me a lot. You know, I look at them as a father figure, honestly. You know, I still talk to them on a regular basis. I text them right after the game, you know. And, you know, they text me back, talk about, you know, heart attack.
Oh.
Yeah, it was so I still communicate with all three of those guys.
But I'm hoping that Coach Rule stays a long time, and I hope, you know, continued success with our program because, I mean, he's won me over. When he beat Penn State, you know, internally he's good with me. Internally. So, guys, I want to close this out. Any closing remarks, Chris?
I'm looking forward to this victory, man. We need to, like I said, statement game so we get in the top 25. We need that.
Absolutely.
Because I'm about to blow my social media up with it soon as
Oh, trust me. When we, and I'll send you a friend request after this. But when we beat Penn State, man, I was on troll mode the whole week. I swore it was about to be cyberbullying, and then Chris could tell you, I think I was cyberbullying Penn State folks. That whole
we beat Penn State.
Real quick.
I started getting everybody started sending me their kids and their nephews film talking about, yeah, man, my nephew's good, man. He talking about he want to come to Temple. I said, oh, really? I ain't say nothing like that a week ago.
Exactly.
All up in my text messages, you know, they're trying to get y'all kids to come here and sending me their film. Like, yeah, man, you think you can?
Exactly. Chris, any closing remarks?
Basically, we'll be on the lookout for the next couple of days. You'll see a couple of the write-up on the prediction for what's going to happen on Saturday. Mm-hmm. And, overall, I think it's going to be a good game for Temple.
Well, guys, I want to thank you guys again for joining the podcast. And I meant to mention this earlier. Folks can subscribe to the Coaching Players magazine by going to coachingplayer.com. This podcast, along with articles from Chris and other great writers, will be on the site. Feel free to, you know, browse through it and check it out. I mean, it's a great magazine. Shout out to Frank for letting me be the host of his podcast. And, you know, once again, guys, I just want to thank you guys again for getting on the podcast. I wish you all the best, brother. You know, I've been following you since you landed at Temple, and I'll be following you beyond. So thanks again, brother. And
I appreciate you having me. I appreciate your service as well, you know.
Absolutely. And Chris, you know we good.
Yeah, definitely.
You know we good. So once again, thanks, everybody. Get on coachingplayer.com. Be on the lookout for this podcast. And share it with your friends, man, because we were trying to build this thing up. So once again,
I'm definitely, like I said, that I'm trying once I get my copies of the magazine and everything, but I'm post all, like I said, all the pictures and everything on my social media. I'm doing my thing over there at Drexel, you know. So and if I get this training facility, I would love for y'all to be, you know, the first one to, you know, do anything as far as, you know, trying to market me in your magazine and anything. You know, I would love for that. So we definitely stay in contact.
Sounds good, brother. All right. Thanks again, guys. Talk to you guys later.